In general, we're looking for four areas of value add that we can when we acquire a property. Okay, so an existing property, and actually go over in storage. There's you're buying existing properties, but you also can do development and you can do conversions. Those are three main types of acquisition. And I've concentrated on existing properties to this point. And when you're buying an existing property, for me, I'm a value add investor, so I'm looking for something that is probably wrong or something that I can improve on the property, and that I think that we can increase the value of the property over a lifespan of our ownership.
I am Christina Suter, and this is the Real Estate Breakthrough Show, where we talk about the reality of real estate, the mindset you need in order to face the reality of what it is, and tips and tricks to get you moving forward in investing. I am your host, Christina Suter. I have Powell Chee with me, and guess what he just told me? He just told me he closed a deal this morning, right before we recorded. Powell, good job. So why don't you fill us in on what's this deal and why were you hustling around this morning?
Yeah, so the last couple of days have been sort of a mad scramble, right? Because literally I just closed the deal like right before this. So I'm in that process of, I just wired the money. Well, actually my partner wired the money. I signed the settlement statement. It all went to the title company. All that's done, and now we're just waiting for that email that comes back and says, "All right, you guys are officially closed. You guys are now the owners." All that stuff is just literally happening in real time, I guess, as we talk.
In real time as we talk. So what is this? What did you just acquire? I assume it's not an elderly care community.
No, it's not.
No,
so
it's not.
My concentration nowadays, what I've been focused on, I would say the last probably 2 years, has been self-storage. I do have a multifamily background. I came from the multifamily world. Really, when COVID hit, I decided to add a different asset class to my mix and bring in, just look at other asset classes. Just because of the way that I was doing multifamily, I thought, I don't really know if I'm comfortable yet bringing my investors in right when COVID happened. So I thought, I give myself a 6-month period to learn a different asset class. I chose self-storage at that time, and then have been moving fast and trying to just acquire more deals, and so one we got today. So it's a self-storage deal. This one happens to be in Birmingham, Alabama. Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Tuscaloosa,
okay.
So 70 miles away from Birmingham, where the University of Alabama is. So we just excited about it. Ready to move on and put our plan in place.
So what is it that you really look for inside of a storage unit that makes you go, yeah, this is the one that we want to purchase, and why it's perfect for your particular crew?
Yeah, so in general, we're looking for four areas of value add that we can when we acquire a property. Okay, so an existing property. And actually go over in storage, there's, you're buying existing properties, but you also can do development and you can do conversions. Those are three main types of acquisition. And I've concentrated on existing properties to this point. And when you're buying an existing property, for me, I'm a value add investor. So I'm looking for something that is probably wrong or something that I can improve on the property, and that I think that we can increase the value of the property over a lifespan of our ownership. So and those things that I'm looking for are four different areas. So I'm looking for low rent, so low rent compared to the market. So one of these things that sometimes you find people that have a storage facility and their rents are not really adjusted to the market. They just haven't raised rent in could be years, and they feel that occupancy is more important. So they just like, hey, we're 100% full, and we'd like to stay that way, and I don't want to raise the rent, so they don't raise it for years. And that happens, fairly often. Also, occupancy. So occupancy might be low. So whether it's a new facility or just a facility that is undergoing like transition or just hasn't been run very well, sometimes the occupancy, we've taken over properties that are 55% occupied, 60% occupied. And then the business plan is really to bring that up to, a stabilized rate. We just say it's over 85%. We think we can get higher than that, but at 85% is where we do our underwriting models. So that's two, low occupancy, low rent. Third one is expansion. So we're looking for properties that have, maybe there's some extra land. Maybe the building or the plot is not, it just doesn't fit well, or you can add some portable units somewhere. You can add some parking here. You can convert some parking spaces into more storage. You can do something that can basically bring in more money. All right. So expansion possibilities. And the last one for us is operational inefficiencies. So we're looking for ways that we can cut some of those expenses, right? So what are they doing on the property? In what ways can we cut expenses? And that's actually a big one for us, and that's probably one of the major ones for us. But we're able to cut a lot of expenses because of the way we run our business, and we look for any combination of those, right? Any combination, and that's really what we're looking for when we're looking for a property. So this one happens to be one that we feel like we can. The occupancy it goes up and down. So we really feel like we could even out occupancy, and it's not so cyclical. And there are some expansion possibilities as well. Not a huge amount, but there are some that we think that we can put there. And in terms of the rents, we compared it to the market, and the rents are low in the market. Not like so low that you're like ridiculously low, but certainly room to gain and get us, just the combination of all those things will really just, make our business plan flourish.
Well, and go into the efficiencies. Like that is one of the cornerstones of your particular business model that I think is unusual and people should really have a better understanding of. How do you guys run your businesses more efficient than probably 90% of other storage units? I'm just saying, maybe 90% is too aggressive, but the way you described it in the past, it makes perfect sense to me why there's an immediate cost savings and yet better of this customer response in the way that you guys run it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to do that. So what we do as our operations is we run everything unmanned. Okay, so unmanned. So let me explain the traditional model of self-storage. Most of you are probably familiar with it, right? You go to a self-storage facility, there's an office, there's a person in the office, you talk to that person, you explain to them what you're storing, they show you several different size of units that you can rent, and then you choose to rent one, sign the lease, and you buy a lock, or you buy some boxes, and then you're basically good to go from there, right? That's the traditional model. That's probably, like you said, I don't know if it's 90%, but it's somewhere way up there in terms of like that's the traditional model that most people run. We run an unmanned model, and this unmanned model, basically, we don't have anybody in the office, so there's no customer-facing person. And we did this. This was occurring pre-COVID, right? That there were certain businesses that were starting to move towards like a little bit more unmanned model, a little bit more technology involved, a little bit more support around this type of model. But when COVID occurred, with the idea of like, hey, we don't want to talk to anybody, right? And just everybody's like, hey, I don't want to touch anybody, I don't want to breathe on anybody, and I don't want to, be around anybody. And so that just accelerated this model, the acceptance of this model to the general public, right? So there's nobody in the office. Basically, if somebody comes to our facility, they see our signage. They can either scan with a QR code that will go directly to our website, and then they can enter their information in directly on our website. They can rent. They can put in their credit card information. As soon as they complete the transaction, basically they get texted, they get emailed their gate code, so they can punch in their gate code. They get a unit number, so they know which unit to go to. And then there's a free lock that we provide for them inside the unit. So it's pretty much seamless in terms of like their ability to get in right away, get this done, do it themselves. Now, if they're not as tech savvy, or they don't really want to do it over the phone, for some reason, I don't know, they don't want to do it over the phone for some reason, that's fine. We have a call center. So we have a call center. Everybody is pretty familiar with just making a phone call. You can all do the exact same thing over the phone. They will do the exact same thing, send you a text, send you an email. You'll have your gate code information, and you can just do it that way. So for people that are like, I don't really like to do it over the phone, or I don't want to do it on my phone, or don't have my phone with me, there's a phone number where somebody can do it. And truthfully, I think most people nowadays, you feel that like, hey, this seems like this should be pretty standard, that you could go online, go onto somebody's website, click rent now, and be able to rent these these units and choose your unit and choose anything else that you want, or how many units you want and where you want it. But the truth is, that's not all that common. I mean, you would think it'd be very common, but it's not really that common that you can do that. And again, in the traditional model, most of the time you can reserve a unit. So you can go onto a website and you can reserve a unit, right? But you actually can't do the full transaction. So what that means is that the person can reserve a unit, they press reserve. Now they have to figure out, okay, well, am I going to go there after work? Because I can't really before work, because the place doesn't open till 9.
Right.
And it closes at 6, right, for most of these places. So
you're hustling.
I get off at 5. Do I have enough time to like get over there and jam over there after a hard day of work and I'm tired? And do I really want to, get this unit, after work? And I only have a short window of time to do that. And then, and it just causes sort of this friction, because you have to do it when somebody's in the office. Now, you can say, okay, well, I'm going to go there on Saturday or Sunday. Well, Saturday, who really wants to, drive to their storage facility to like rent a unit, right? It's like, I'd rather watch a football game or whatever. I'm watching something else on TV or hanging out with kids, or I got other things I want to do.
Or I'm going to move on Saturday. Like, I want to know there's someplace I'm going on Saturday, because I've already got my U-Haul truck showing up Saturday morning, because that's when I've got my friends signed on to be able to help me.
Yeah, exactly, right. And so you have to be there when they're there. And then Sunday, a lot of times the hours are shortened, right? So it's not a full day. So it's like, like 9 to 2 or something, right? And so it's a very short day. So you don't have as much of a window. Well, for us, again, having this ability to do it online is 24 hours. Somebody could do it, right? And then the call center is open 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. So, from basically like 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So that's enough time where anybody can talk to somebody, even extended hours beyond when somebody is there in person. So in essence, we feel, hey, this is just like the way that the future is moving towards. People are just a lot more comfortable on their phone, a lot more comfortable either talking to somebody. They don't really need somebody in the office. And so this is a way that we are able to cut a lot of expenses, because it's not only just, payroll, but it's, there's bonuses, there's training costs, there's rehiring, and there's a lot of different things that go on with payroll taxes. So all of that stuff not only financially is eliminated, but it's eliminated from your operations, where you don't have to think about things like that, right? So it's definitely a much more
your level of management. Yeah. So your level of management, whether, like you said, training in particular. So there's the training, there's the payroll, there's the management of payroll for them, but there's also, for some, in some of the more traditional U-Haul storage units, there's somebody who's living there, right? So there are many office. I've got at my storage unit, they live above the office. So that's there. They're there 24/7. How do you manage the physicality of the site then? So if you're truly automated, you go up there, you punch in your code, you can, they got your credit card, you can get through the gate, you get to your unit. How do you manage physically the space itself? Because I know you're not flying to each and every one of these units in Alabama or wherever
where
the other ones are located.
Yeah, so you do have series of maintenance things that you have to do, right? So you have to cut locks when people aren't paying, or say somebody is they're late. You put an overlock on them. Fences, lighting fixtures maybe fall down, things like that, right? It happens, right? So we do have a 1099 person who is maintenance staff, right? That they go out there and they go out there a couple times a week, check on the units, make sure that they're doing sort of a walkthrough audit of the units, that every unit that is not occupied should not be occupied, and every unit that is occupied should be occupied. So they check all that. They, put other locks on, overlocks is what we call them. When people are late, you put an overlock on them. So they do that process, but they're not customer facing. So they're not there to like signing the leases with people, to walk them through any kind of what the process is or anything. It's kind of like, hey, if customers have a question, they'll just refer like, hey, the phone number's right there. You can call the customer service and ask if you had a problem, like you didn't have a lock, or I don't know, something was wrong there. please just call the phone number. That the customer service will help you out. So easy for them.
In this Alabama unit that you literally closed this morning, right? Wired this morning and looking for the email saying it is yours. What's your plan of action? What's the first thing you're going to do? The second thing you're going to do? And what's the greatest value add?
Yeah. So literally today, our team is out there doing the property management conversions, right? So they have a traditional model. So we're putting in our model, right? So we are hiring our maintenance staff. We are converting all of the data. So you have all these renters, right? We have 350 units. So we have a bunch of renters in there. We have all their data. All that data needs to be migrated to our system. So that's all happening right now. In terms of so there's a lot of transitions that happen right away. Phone numbers, Google My Business accounts, Facebook pages, all of these Yelp accounts. So all those things are being transferred at this point right now.
Okay.
And the other things that, in terms of CapEx, this doesn't have a huge amount of CapEx at this property. And I will tell you that one difference between, say, multifamily, and I can speak on multifamily more than, say, other asset classes, but in general, just multifamily versus storage. One of the big things with multifamily is when you take over a property, you really need to improve the looks of it, right? It needs to look better, right? So whether that's the interior,
to get a value add out of
something,
that's right.
Better.
Yeah,
that's where you're getting the value add, right? Is to improve it. Storage isn't really like that. I mean, storage is really a little bit more like, hey, you need to make it functional and you need to make it safe and secure. So, but adding paint or repainting your doors, that's really not going to get you any more value to the property, right? It's really like, okay, is this place safe? Is this place somewhere that's secure, that my wife would feel comfortable going there and by herself? And that's really what you're looking for. So for us, the initial first CapEx items are going to be signage. So we're going to change the signage, right? And we're going to convert this one from a heavily student-based, I guess, tenant class to more of just the traditional, renters. So that's going to be mostly our thing, and it's mostly on the marketing side that we do that as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, how do you control who's looking for your units? Because I mean, more than 50% of the attraction is the location of the unit itself, based on my very limited understanding, right? I mean, the reason why storage units exist at least in Los Angeles on primary streets is because a lot of your traffic is just somebody drives by and says, hey, that's really close to my dorm or my work or my home, and therefore that's the unit I'm going to use. So how do you control that?
Well, you don't, I guess you don't really control it, but you can influence it, right? So you need to be putting it out there as much as possible to where other renters are going to find you and beyond just storage. And I will tell you that this one, I don't want to give away just yet until we're absolutely I see everything, but it's heavily student marketed, right? The marketing is all towards students. So so even when we talked to the property manager on site there, they said, we get calls from regular business people who ask, is this just for students? Because the naming and everything around it is so much student based that they're like, can I just rent here? And if somebody's calling, it's one of those things. It's like 10 other people probably had that same question. They just never asked. They just moved on, right? So rebranding it. And then, new signage, and then putting it out in places where other renters are going to find it as well. So that's really what our plan is.
And it doesn't sound like this one has any value add as far as building a new building, extra space for RV parking, extra storage space for cars, or being able to put, I know one of the units that I've worked with in the past had a bulletin board. Right, they'd rented out a corner of their property for a bulletin board, which brought them, I think, $20,000 a year.
So this one doesn't have a lot of that. It does have a little bit of space. So there's probably a strip of space that we could probably add. I would guess probably around 5,000 to 10,000 square feet of storage. So. Maybe closer to 5. So we'll say 5,000 square feet of storage. So an additional 5,000. Right now it's 35,000 square feet. So we might get it to about 40,000 square feet of storage. But I will tell you, in this business, in this business plan. It is not part of our business plan. That's like icing on the cake. So we're going to first do all the operational changes. We're going to first get the occupancy to even out and get up to our 85% level. When we get to that level and we feel like we're stabilized, now we could say, okay, you know what? In order to maximize the profits on this property, let's go ahead and utilize this space and put something else here, right? But that's not in our business model. So if that happens, just more benefit that was not even underwritten. If it doesn't happen, we didn't plan for it anyway.
Yeah, and it's down the it would be down the line. So it's not required in order to make the space work, which is lovely. And then you can choose to do it down the line. I am an investor, but if I was an investor listening to this, one of the questions I would have is, well, how do you guys raise your capital? How do you get your capital? Do you use investors? Do you use a prospectus? How do you manage this?
Yeah. So we're always we all have a series of, I guess, paperwork that we have. So yeah, so you're asking about paperwork. We have all the paperwork for sure. All is done legally, right? And we raise capital from investors. So a lot of people that I know of are from the multifamily world, right? Just like me. So they have an interest in like storage. They don't know about it, but they, since, I've been doing it for a little while now and have some track record, they're kind of like, okay, well, let me see what you're doing, Powell. Show me what it is. Show me how I can understand this a little bit. And because I'm interested in potentially like diversifying my portfolio a little bit, right? Just adding some to a different asset class. And so, yeah, a lot of my investors are real estate investors, primarily multifamily people, and then looking to diversify or just looking to learn more about this property. And then a lot of times I try to bring a lot of my investors with me. So last time I went, I brought some investors with me so that they could see it because, I think people nowadays, they know about it in terms of like, yeah, it's in their head. But when you go actually and see the property, and you see like, oh, okay, yeah, now I understand. Now I get it. Now I get where you could make some money on this. And then, we visit some competitors and things, and then they say, oh, you're right, the rents are low. Like, why are they so low? The other place is just, it's like the same type of quality of property, but yet they're charging $20 more every month. And it's, it's things like that. And you're like, exactly. I mean, we should be able to at least get 15. I'm not saying we're going to get 25, but we'll get like 15, right?
Right. So, so just, you've been in the space, maybe only a couple of years so far. I think you switched from multifamily specifically to storage, I think in the last 3 years. Does that sound about right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, COVID. Yeah, since when COVID's happened. So I guess it's about 3 years now.
Okay. I guess, tell me about a time when it didn't go right. Real estate I love real estate, been investing in real estate for 35 years. And I have had more than one season where I'm like, okay, this sucks. I have a problem. This is really challenging me. And I either can save the deal or I can't save the deal. Sometimes I can't. But the reality of real estate is that it's this long-term commitment of truly being able to both being capable of doing acquisitions, investor relations, and the capacity to build a team. It's also problem solving. Problem solving is one of the most important cornerstones of being a professional and successful investor. So tell me about a time where you had a problem, how you solved it, and what you learned from it. How did it grow you up as an investor?
Absolutely. And I have I think a stronger example in multifamily.
Okay, sure.
So I can go to the multifamily if that works, or I can do storage as well.
No. The point is education around problem solving. So whatever asset class, I'm not attached to that.
Okay. All right. So I bought my first multifamily property in 2017. I live in Los Angeles, like you, or Southern California.
Yep.
And this property was in Indianapolis, Indiana, right? So 40 unit property. And this was my first one. Yeah. So this is my first one. And I was excited about it. And, hey, I'm going to do this whole thing. And it's really just me. So it's like, okay, I'm going to do this whole thing. And I'm going to, taking advice from people, but everything from the beginning to the end. And then we I interviewed 3 property managers, hired one. And the big mistake was, well, I guess there's a series of mistakes with this. First of all, my wife was like, I wouldn't hire them. And I was like, really? I'm going to hire him. She's like, I would do it. And I was like, I'm going to do
committed.
it. Like, I'm the real estate investor.
Right.
You're not the real estate investor. I'm the real estate investor. I know. So I hired him. Mistake. I hired him, and I kept him on for way too long. Kept him on for a couple of years. But eventually, I had to fire him. I fired him right before COVID. So I knew that COVID was coming. And like, there's all this signs. I was fired him like basically like February or March, when COVID happened. So I knew it was going to be bad for whatever next couple of months, because all kinds of who's going to take this over, and all during COVID and eviction moratoriums and going on. It's like, and I got to hire a new property manager. So I went through 4 property managers that year, 2020. I have one now that I'm much happier with, and I like them. So they've been doing a much better job. But it took me a while to like really, I kept thinking, I think they're going to get better. I think they're going to do better. So first mistake, didn't listen to my wife. Second mistake, kept them on too long. Third mistake was like, eventually I just had enough, and I just needed to let them go. So, I'm not really the guy that likes to like fire people, but I was like, this has to happen, and it has to come down to me. It's me.
Yeah.
One of the things that helped me in this situation too, so that was sort of the big mistake. Later on, I started, working on the property again and everything, but the property I didn't have my full attention on the property. And I realized into it that my strength is not on the operation side. It's not really the asset management side. I'm more on the acquisition side and finding deals and hunting those deals down. But to the process of going through like all the value add and the rehab and everything that you need to do, that's not really exciting to me, and it's not something that I really like to do. So the property started to suffer, and eventually it got pretty bad. I mean, I got it down to like 58% occupancy, right? And it was like maybe 80%.
Okay. Yeah, that's really going to nail you.
Now, lucky for me, it was still kind of breaking even-ish. I was still, I don't know, I was feeding it a little bit, but not crazy amount.
As a friend of mine says, you didn't lose enough zeros yet.
Yeah. So it wasn't terribly painful yet. But I realized it was not going in the right direction, right? And so at that point, I was either going to sell it. I was like, I need to sell it. I think I still even make some money on this because multifamily is still hot. Maybe I'll just sell it. And, but then I said, I'll sell it or partner. And so I just put it out there to people. I'll sell it or partner with people. And then I met my business partner that way. He kind of drafted up like a business model that he felt like was fair. And he's like, hey, I think this is fair, and if we can do this, I can bring in some capital. I can put a plan to fix, a bunch of these units. We get them up to what we think is, we get them up to the new rents and operate better, and then we decide to sell at that point, right? That was a big help for me because he's much better at the asset management side. He's local as well, so that's helpful as well. So he lives out there. And he's much better at that. He's taking care of a lot of that. A lot of that's off my plate. And he really came to me with like, I think, a fair assessment of like, okay, like you have some equity in the property already. This is like, your equity, you'll get that. Anything beyond that, like let's split it this way. You come in with some money, I come in with some money, and we'll put it together and we'll make it a win-win. And so everything so far has been great. We already, so we plan to fix 12 units of those 40, a rehab folio. We did it. We got them all to our pro forma rent. So now we were like, okay, well, we're sitting at 75% occupancy at this point, and the property is doing well. It's actually performing pretty well. So what do we want to do? Do we want to go ahead and move forward? So we just talked about it a month ago, and now we're moving forward with fixing the rest of the units and going to get those rented out. So we have about 10 more units left, and bring them up to the market rent. We still have a bunch of other units that are just kind of the classic, still could use a good turn for the next buyer, right? And that's what we'll do is we'll sell it when it's full, and the next buyer will have a bunch of units that they can turn over and just follow the model, right? So
that sounds great. I get it. So what did you learn? What was most important that you learned in this?
Well, so going back to the beginning was like, okay, listen to your wife. And when she has a gut instinct of like, hey, probably shouldn't hire this guy, and then start to really realized that you probably shouldn't hire this guy. Second thing is like, you need to fire quicker. Like, because I waited so long to fire them, the property really started to go down, 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 and it was really hard to sort of turn around. So I needed to fire a lot quicker. And I was just like, well, I don't know if I'm going to be able to find another property manager. I don't know. I did my search before. It was hard to find in the first place, but there's a lot. So just fire quicker, move on. Third thing is that what I learned was that there are parts of multifamily or real estate in general that I'm not good at, or I don't like, and it would be better for me to bring in a partner rather than for me to say own the whole thing. I own the whole thing. I get 100% of the profits, and I understand that. But if you use it as a team sport, there are other people on the team who are better than you at something, and they can provide that value to you and make the property run even better than you just by yourself, right? Especially if you want to scale, and I want to scale. I don't want to just say that's my only property. That's all I'm going to have for the next 10 years. I'm just going to have one property. I'm looking to get more, so I can't be focused on that one property all the time. So that was a big learning experience for me, and I'm glad I've gone through that.
You landed just where I would want you to land, right? So it's like you go through this whole thing, you get the lessons and all this other stuff. So if real estate can and will be difficult, why use real estate for your financial freedom, and what does financial freedom mean to you?
Yeah, so for me, financial freedom is that thing that I was going after. Ever since when I first started learning about real estate, that takes me back to sort of my dad. He bought some houses in the San Francisco Bay Area. They appreciated like crazy, and he was like, "Hey, we got to get into real estate together. We got to do something." And I was like, at the time, I was like, "I know that I'm at a job. I make $50,000, and these houses are $500,000. How am I gonna save $100,000? I mean, like I'm saving like $10,000 a year. How am I going to save? It's going to take me 10 years before I get to that amount, and the house isn't going to be worth the same in 10 years. It's going to be worth a lot more." So, I just figured I didn't know how to do it. I just didn't understand how to do it. And then as I started to learn more with a lot of podcasts, with a lot of meetups, with a lot of forums, I started to realize that, hey, this can be done. Like this can be done. It may not be done in your backyard, but you can do it, and you can achieve financial freedom through real estate. And so that was always the goal of like, hey, you know what? I want to have the freedom to be able to do what I want with my time, right? So my time being the most important thing, that I want to be able to do whatever I want. So I love beach volleyball. So if I want to play beach volleyball on Wednesday at 9 a.m., then I want to be able to play beach volleyball at 9 a.m. And that was really the main driver of what I wanted. And then I was able to, leave my W-2 earlier this year. So, all through real estate. So that's been super exciting. And now it's kind of like take it to the next level. So not just like, be able to leave your W-2, but now to see, you see other things that are happening, other things that you want to enjoy as well. Like I've heard about this. Oh, that would be great to climb this mountain, Mount Kilimanjaro in Africa or wherever, you just have these like ideas of like, wow, that'd be great. I mean, I want to experience these types of things. I want to experience them with my family, and I want to have my son, have these experiences growing up. And so in order to do that, I need to continue to grow and get bigger and move sort of beyond just initial financial freedom of, say, leaving my W-2. So that's where I am right now.
What a good description. I mean, financial freedom, abundance is one of the things in transforming your life, whether it's from W-2 or feeling like you just don't have control of your time, to being able to be financially free, to have this sense of abundance, control of your time, because it's not necessarily the dollar. It's the freedom too. It's the choice too. Like you talked about, being able to do what you want first thing in the morning. That's your choice. That's the thing that you want to do that brings you joy. That's what financial freedom sounds like it means to you, which is perfect. And you have a son, which I didn't even know that you had a son.
Yeah, he's a little boy, almost 2 years old. He's a little less than 2 right now. But so he's a lot of fun to play with, and I want him to enjoy these things as he grows up.
Well, my two favorite topics in the world: real estate and children. I'll talk for hours on either one of those. Truly. Well, thank you.
You know, and
go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Can I just say that too? And these are, I know many real estate investors that are probably in the same boat, children in real estate. And for me, I am planning to at least to expose my son and to all of these deals. So when I go to visit properties, when he gets a little bit older, he gets to be, I don't know, maybe 8 years old or something, he's going to come with me. So he's going to come with me to visit these properties. When I go to like these investor meetings, or I go to meetups, or I go to things like that, like he's going to come with me, and he's going to learn to like just be exposed to that there's other things beyond just what he's learning in school. So, real estate and children, merging them together, right?
It's a natural thing. I did a whole podcast with a gentleman who was passionate like I was about real estate and children. We did a whole podcast on financial freedom, teaching financial freedom to children. Like, what is that about, and why we choose to do that, and why that's so passionate for us as parents. So thank you. I so appreciate the time. Thank you for the transparency, the honesty, and the straight up education and helpful tips. If people want to invest with you, or they simply want to ask you questions, how do they get a hold of you? How do they find out about you?
Sure. I guess the easiest way is probably to email me. So if you want to email my team, you're interested in, say, look at what type of deals we have, just invest at Radiant Storage. So Radiant Storage is our brand, RADIANT storage.com. So invest at radiantstorage.com will bring you to like sort of our investment, path. My email is a little bit different. It's Powell, Powell, at Radiant, RADIANT, WE. That's for World Enterprise. Right? We're going World Enterprise here. So radiantwe.com, and happy to talk to anybody about any of these topics, and appreciate that.
Again, I can't thank you so much. This is Christina Suter with Real Estate Breakthrough Show. You can find us on YouTube, Roku TV, Amazon TV, as well as iHeartRadio and a variety of other podcast platforms. Thank you so much. Tune in next week for more.